Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. This time out, we're joined by a special guest. Kip Winger is here.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate you being around.
Happy to be here.
Did a workshop last night for Bose.
I did.
And we're showing some of the speakers and things off for the sales engineers this morning.
It's an awesome system, man.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I want to come back around and talk about that. But originally you're from Colorado.
I am.
And what was Blackwood Creek?
The band Blackwood Creek was the original band I had with my it was originally my two older brothers and a guy named Peter Fletcher. So it was Nate Winger, Paul Winger, Peter Fletcher, and me. And we started when I was about 7 and played until I was about 19 or 20, really.
Uh-huh.
My oldest brother, Paul, left for a while, so we were a three-piece, which I just made a reunion album with that about 2 years ago, which was Peter Fletcher and Nate and me, and it was really, the chemistry was still there. I was
That's
really
cool.
into it. Yeah, it was fun to play with those guys again.
So were you playing bass starting at age 7?
That's really my whole orientation is three-piece rock. I mean, so Grand Funk was a big one for me. Joe Walsh, James Gang, and Rush,
Sure.
Police, that kind of a thing. It was really, because that's what we did, so that's really my orientation in the rock thing.
Mm-hmm. So what drew you into classical music?
You know what? Thanks for asking. It's really it's all I've ever heard for the last 20 years. It's just the music that I hear is these giant shapes of music. So I think it started, my brother and I were in karate when I was a kid, and then when I was about 16, I had a girlfriend that wanted to take ballet. And she didn't have anybody to take her. None of her friends would do it, and I was like, "Hey, I'll try it." So I took to it like a duck to water. I was really into it, and when I was doing the classes, I was hearing Debussy, and Tchaikovsky, and Ravel, and Stravinsky, and all that, thinking, "Wow, somebody wrote that music." It really freaked me out, and I was really drawn to the music more than anything, and kind of afraid of it, really, to be honest with you. I mean, I thought, okay, that's really what I want to do, but I never really imagined it was possible. And then in 1997, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go study. And so I started studying with a cat at University of New Mexico named Richard Herman. I studied counterpoint for a couple of years with him. And when I moved to Nashville, I studied with this guy named Michael Keurig, who's a great composer. And Michael introduced me to the guy I study with now named Richard Danielpour, who's a very famous classical composer and now a good friend of mine. And kind of just, I'm really, I don't read a lot, but I read a lot of music theory books. I'm kind of a music theory and orchestration geek.
Okay.
So,
Right.
Always listening to how they make those sounds. And I never really listen to rock music anymore. I just listen to classical music and always trying to find out better ways to express myself with that. And it translates great into working with rock music because, the things you learn from that side of it, you can then come into the rock thing and do some more chord progressions that you wouldn't think of and modalities that wouldn't be normal. It wouldn't be normal in rock music and stuff. So
Right.
one feeds the other, and so I've struck a pretty good balance with the two, I think.
Right. There's also all of the dynamics, and you had mentioned the orchestration, and when you bring that back to the rock thing, your ear is different.
Right.
When you have it tuned to hear all those different timbres and things that come out of an orchestra and the possibilities are available. When you come back to rock, then there's those orchestration possibilities. You want to hear those.
Pretty much, yeah. So we did a record called Winger 4, which was really when I was kind of exploding on this whole new thing in my classical music studies, and a lot of the fans of the Winger music didn't actually get the record. It's kind of, it's a very sophisticated album, and it's funny because there's some songs that they're completely keyless. I mean, like some atonal stuff going on in there, but I managed to make it work. It was really fun for me, and every once in a while I meet a guy who's like, yeah, Winger 4, that's my favorite album. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, right.
Because most people didn't get it, but I was really happy with it. I liked it a lot. And so, we're on making records. for a long time, I tried to interject my classical music in the rock thing, just trying to, do some different stuff in there and make sure I was trying different things with it. And once I finally kind of separated them, I think I'm much better off. I write a real classical piece and just keep it over there, and then write a real rock piece and keep it over there. But they do feed each other with just the theory of being able to create new chord progressions and stuff that I wouldn't have normally been doing in regular, like blues kind of rock and stuff like that.
Sure. You've had some good success with getting performances for compositions and things around the country?
I've been very lucky, I got to tell you. I never imagined it was possible that I would have an actual orchestra play my pieces in a concert setting.
Right.
I wanted to write for ballet, so I wrote one piece called Ghost, and a very well-known choreographer named Christopher Wheeldon. He liked it a lot, and he programmed it for San Francisco Ballet, which was amazing. It's been very successful. And
that's great.
Had performances, San Francisco Opera House and London, Sadler Wells and Lincoln Center, and so that's been amazing. But
that's phenomenal.
I've had performances with Tucson Symphony, Colorado Symphony, one symphony in Greece, and I'm just kind of pinching myself. I really had no idea I could get that far with it. It's because I love it, So just doing the thing I love.
Sure. So going back over to the other side, how did you make the connection with Alice Cooper and get your career launched in that area?
Man, I met Alice Cooper. I was friends with a producer named Bo Hill, and he was having a lot of success, and he was producing Constrictor by Alice Cooper. And they called me one day and said, we need 4 bass tracks, get up here. And so I was a big Alice Cooper fan, and came up and recorded 4 songs and really hit it off with Kane Roberts, who's still to this day one of my really good friends. And Kane suggested that I kind of put the bug in Alice's ear that if they go out on tour, I'd love to go. And so, they called me up. I was just wanted the right place at the right time. Is that what that was? Just luck.
Right.
Just kind of it all just came together. Bo hired me on the gig, so I kind of owe that to him. And Alice was into my playing, and then we went out on tour for a year,
right,
which was really cool. And that was a great learning experience and a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Now, you had already been writing songs for bands at that point.
Kind of, I never really went down that road enough, I think, but there was this band called Kicks. Bo was producing them, and I was also kind of assisting Bo on some records that he did too. So when they needed they were always looking for material, and so I had this song called Bang Bang on that album Midnight Dynamite. And actually, I do some writing with Donnie Purnell, the guy that was in that band, who wrote most of their big hits and stuff. So, that was the first song I ever had on an album.
Right.
Actually, it's one of the last songs I ever had on anyone else's record, because I've been so focused on my own music. But
sure.
That was 1984 or something like that.
So after your time with Alice Cooper, obviously Winger was the next group. How did that band come about? You had met Reb Beach somewhere along the way.
Yeah, man, I met Reb during that time when we were working I was working a lot for Bo at Atlantic Studios, and Reb came in to work with Fiona Flanagan, who was also an Atlantic artist. And I met Reb, it was probably 1983, and we just crossed each other's path in the studio, and we were all hanging out in the same group. We didn't really like each other when we met.
Yeah.
I thought he was an egomaniac, and I'm very low key. I'm like, I don't have much of a personality when I'm talking, very Colorado monotone. And so he probably thought I was stuck up or something, whatever. We got together, I had some solo music and I wanted some good guitar playing on it, so I had him play on a few of my solo things as a solo artist. That was like back when my hair was I escaped from Duran Duran mode. And I was really into like Peter Gabriel and that kind of thing back then. So it was a little bit more progressive.
Mm-hmm.
And Reb played a bunch of on the demos and stuff. And we had this drummer named David Rosenberg, who's amazing. He lives in New York still. And we were three-piece again. Mm-hmm. And nothing really happened with it. We shopped the tapes. I mean, I've been shopping a record deal since I was 16 and nothing happened, you know, but and so when I got out of Alice Cooper, when I was in Alice Cooper, actually, I met Paul Taylor. Mm-hmm. He was the keyboard player. And so Paul Taylor and then this guy Ken Mary, who was in House of Lords, the drummer, mm-hmm. We hired him for Alice. And Ken and Paul and I were like, let's do a band, you know. And I was like, well, I know this great guitar player, Reb, you know.
Right.
And so Paul and I wrote a few songs on the road and stuff. And then after the first Alice tour, I actually broke my knee tripping on fake blood because I had a dislocated knee from skiing in Colorado. So I had a bad knee, basically.
Right.
Tripped on some fake blood, went on workman's comp, and the workman comp payments paid my demo time for the Winger thing. Is basically what happened.
Right.
I left Alice Cooper and they were like, oh my God, what are you doing? I just felt like I wanted to do my own thing. And the only guy that was really supportive of me was Alice. You know, so Alice was real, yeah, man, you should go for it. And he kind of named our band. He thought Winger was a cool name. And I'm actually doing a benefit, his Christmas pudding thing this year. We still stay in touch. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I did the demos with Reb, and 6 months later we had a deal with Atlantic.
Wow.
We wrote the whole record in that first 6 month period.
Wow, move fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's after 20 years of making demos.
Right, so 20 years and then it just boom.
Right.
Right, happens really fast.
So, but the album came out and it was dead in the water. Nobody bought it. It was 6 months before anybody picked it up. MTV picked up the video, and then we kind of went up the charts on MTV, and then radio followed that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. And obviously tremendous success followed all that.
Yeah, man, we were really lucky. I mean, we hit it was good timing. I mean, it was kind of at the end of the 80s thing. We were kind of like the last band that got in under the radar. Right.
So then after Winger, you moved more into doing solo work as well as your classical kind of things.
Yeah, well, when the grunge thing hit, it was grunge and Beavis and Butthead and all that stuff kind of took down the 80s. And we were all like, we never really broke up. That was the thing. People thought we just kind of broke up, and whatever happened to those guys. We never really broke up. We just was like, okay, there's no getting any gigs right now. So like, I'll see you guys when the smoke clears, basically.
Right.
And Reb went off and did other stuff, and Rod started teaching at Berkeley, and Paul was in Steve Perry, I think, at that time. And so I went into New Mexico and started studying music, really. I moved to New Mexico, built a studio in my house, made a couple solo records where I really wanted to rewrite the template of what I was doing, like no heavy guitars, no heavy metal singing, and I made this record called This Conversation Seems Like a Dream, which is much more, it was back to my roots of what I was doing as a solo artist before Winger, really, is what that was. Mm-hmm. And I did that album, and then I promoted that album, and actually at Borders bookstores. I was out on acoustic guitar. So it was 1997, really. I mean, I was kind of one of the first rock guys that started promoting on acoustic. Mm-hmm. Because there were really no gigs. I mean, it was really a lean time, and I went into Borders like in the middle of the afternoon.
Right.
Playing, with this new album, and I was playing my 12-string, and for 50 people, but they would be requesting more songs, right? So during that time, I developed my whole acoustic set very organically, mm-hmm. and I've done 1,000 of those shows since then. But followed that up with songs from the ocean floor, and then reunited with the band in 2006 to do Winger 4, and then I did my third solo record, From the Moon to the Sun, in 2008. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of weird, actually. I've kind of got three separate careers where I do the band, which is right now I stick really to the band thing, where it's like I won't do the band without Reb and Rod and John. And now we've got Paul back for some 25th anniversary stuff.
Nice.
And then my solo records that I do, and then my classical music.
Right, right. Keeps you busy.
It does, yeah. The classical thing's really takes a lot of time, and because for me the classical thing was very important not to be kind of like the rock guy goes classical.
Mm-hmm.
I really did my homework and tried to make it come from the most authentic place classical music comes from. So I had to really go back and hit the books.
Sure.
And really do, a lot of exercises and study a lot of different techniques and stuff, so it doesn't sound like a Hollywood soundtrack or, where I write a melody and have the guy orchestrate it. I just didn't want to be that guy. So I've diligently studied hardcore for about 15 years on that before I released anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I've only got 2 pieces that I would really even consider publishable. So I'm moving forward in that. It takes a lot of time, but I get the most out of that because in my creative mind, I'm much further down the road than where I'm out performing stuff that I've played, or maybe songs that I wrote 10 years ago or something.
Right, right. It's cool that you have all 3 of those outlets, though, because that lets your whole creative self get out there in all those different avenues that you want to explore.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when the 80s thing went down and the big record company thing and then the advent of the internet and stuff, it was really like 96, 97. I made a really solid commitment to myself to never be told what to write or never be told how to produce my records or any of that, because I really think, the artistry of music should be left up to the guy who's writing it, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need a producer, some artists need a producer, but in general, especially now, I'm a big advocate of young artists just experimenting until they figure out who they are and then do it yourself. That's
Right.
a big thing for me. I mean, I just, when Winger was real big, it takes forever to get a record deal, and then, you don't have any hits, and this is back when the record company was really the ruling force. Now it's
Sure.
so much cooler because artists have the internet to, break as much ground as they can.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. Speaking of young artists, I was interested to see on your website that you offer coaching services in a variety of different areas.
I do, man. I come from a long line of teachers.
Uh-huh.
Teachers and preachers, my dad's whole side is like ministers. My dad he's got out of it a long time ago, but he has the philosophy and he was a teacher. He taught philosophy and theology at the University of Denver, and all my aunts and uncles, they're all teachers. All my cousins, everybody's a teacher.
Right, runs in the
So
family.
I have that in my blood. I like to teach. I'm good at teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I did rock and roll fantasy camp for a long time, teaching that, and I can see very clearly what needs to happen for a young musician, what might benefit them, and so yeah, I mean, I teach voice and songwriting and production tips, and I can help with playing and stuff like that. I enjoy that a lot.
Right.
I haven't found my zen in teaching because I'm always so busy that I don't have a lot of time for it. But when I find a good student that really takes on what I'm giving them, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Especially the older you get, you kind of you got to leave it for the next generation.
Right, right. Pass that along. Right. So you do that over the internet, or are you doing it in person? Or how are you doing those?
Usually,
teaching
I
sessions?
do that. The majority of what I've been teaching is over the internet on Skype. I just do voice lessons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some songwriting stuff. I've given a lot of coaching through Skype. I really like telling people where I live, to be honest with you.
Right.
But or I go to a facility and do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I've often thought about just, because I'd like to go back and get more, go back and study more at a university. So I'd like to maybe, a lot of times I'll think about maybe I could trade out my thing for that,
Yeah, sure.
Just depends on where, The problem with America now, in my mind, from a from an academic point of view is that there's no true music conservatories left anymore, really. I mean, I think maybe Curtis and I don't know, maybe Juilliard, where you don't have to do the math and all the basic academics for an undergrad. You just go do music. You know?
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, it's very common.
Right.
And very supported by the governments too. So
Yeah, different environment.
it's a much bigger challenge in America.
Mm-hmm. So you have, you mentioned earlier, the 25th anniversary coming up. What do you have planned for that?
Well, we did that already, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we did some show. We did a couple 25th anniversary shows. Did kind of a test run. We're doing more of those. We're doing the Monsters of Rock cruise, where there will be a 25th anniversary show, and you know, we're getting a few gigs up until that point. We're doing in Japan. We're doing in January the 25th anniversary. So it was actually one of the guys that works for me. His idea. It was like, because some of the bands were doing it, and he mentioned it to me. Because I mean, I don't really pay attention to what's going on out there. So he mentioned it to me. I thought it was a great idea. Paul's always been a good friend still.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he hasn't been in the band in a while, we're still good buds. And I asked him if he wanted to do it, and he was into it. And so we played the first album beginning to end, and then, you know, some of the other hits and stuff and some of the newer music. But and then, you know, we recorded it in Las Vegas, so I think it'll be coming out on a disc sometime. But it's fun to revisit that stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, kind of like, wow, that was a cool song. I forgot all about that one.
Yeah,
Or,
right.
boy, that really sucked. What were we thinking?
Have to go back and relearn all the parts and everything?
It's really a bitch to sing that stuff.
Yeah.
But I got through it.
Right. That's great.
It was fun, man.
Sounds like fun, yeah. So you were here talking about the Bose systems. What drew you to Bose, and what is it about these that you like?
I mean, you know, honestly, the thing is the Quiet Comfort headphones. I've been using those since 2006-ish, and I always finish a mix on them. So I'll like mix my records and I'll put those on, and if it's really working in there, I know I've got it right. Because there's a lot of, you know, I think a lot of hi-fi audio guys are like, yeah, Bose, whatever. And I'm like, you got it wrong, man. These things, when I get it right in those headphones, it's really, I know I have it.
Mm-hmm.
And it inevitably, I'll send it to the mastering lab, and they'll be like, yeah, that's a great mix or whatever, you know.
Right.
So a guy from Bose was in a band opening for us, and he just said he's from Bose. I'm like, I love those headphones, you know, using. And then he called me and said, hey, you want to try this system? And he explained to me what it was. He sent me one, and I was completely blown away by it, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just listened to it because I do a lot of solo acoustic shows. And I mean, I don't have to tell you, I mean, you show up at, you know, this and that club USA, and inevitably the PA, I mean, it's 1 in 10 where the PA is decent.
Sure.
And so I tried the system. The basic thing is that the system is so musical. You just it makes you play better,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I just started using it, and I'm actually going to mix my new record on the 2 of these things.
Really?
Because they sound so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of an experiment. It's never been done, but I'm totally confident about it because I've been using this stuff to finish my mixes for so long. But you know, so I've been recommending it to a lot of my friends just because, and it kind of all fell in by accident. I just love the system. It's completely musical, extremely easy to use,
Right.
very intuitive. I didn't even read the manual, and I'm up and running, and just an awesome system, and it sounds incredible.
Yeah.
So, you know, the only downside for me is that I can't fly it.
Right.
Because of the baggage fees. But
Sure.
if I could, I'd take it everywhere I went.
Yeah, right. What's always impressed me about the system is the coverage that you get. You know, you can cover a whole room with one stick and the sub.
It's amazing. And so for me, like I say, as an acoustic guy, I play up to three-ish, 300 seat venues, and it can easily fill a room like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I have, like I said, a lot of friends that do this too, who I've recommended the system to. So it's perfect, really, if you're playing a lot of gigs around your own town. I mean, it's perfect for that. Or if you do a lot of drive gigs, and
Right.
And I mean, I don't know a lot of DJs, but I can see where it'd be amazing for that because the low end is amazing. That's part of the trick that I do with my acoustic is there's there's 2 EQs on it. And so you set the one EQ, and then if you need a little bump on one frequency, there's a parametric EQ in there. So for me, when I hit my guitar, I want it to be like a kick drum. So I'll take the parametric EQ on the guitar channel and just crank up 50 hertz, 10 dB. And it's huge.
Right.
So not many systems can really handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of systems that just have standardized, subs, the frequency's not really dialed in, and it's feedback and all that kind of stuff. And really I've never ever had a feedback problem with this system. It doesn't really feedback at all unless you stick the mic right into it at Mach 10 volume or something like that. But there's never any problem with that.
Right. Right. Well, we appreciate you coming in and doing the workshop last night and talking to the guys this morning. And
yeah, it was really fun, man.
spending time with us here on video too. So
it's really an amazing facility.
Thank you.
It's really
thank you very much.
Incredible. They did a great job.
Hope you'll come back and play again.
I'd love to.
We'd love to have you
come back right here in this room.
In this room would be great. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thank you.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.